Hey, Juventini, welcome back to the All JuveCast channel. And this is episode 121, and I got my man James joining me. James, how you doing?
Doing great.
That's awesome, man. Awesome. And I know we were both excited that we get to finally share a podcast after a very, very nice performance. So we're going to recap Juve versus Cagliari. And of course, Juve with a solid 2-0 victory. Come with the brace from Ronaldo. We're going to recap the match. We're going to talk a bit about some build-up, some stories leading up to it. And as always, no shortage of questions from other Juventini, which is fantastic. And I think we even got somebody trolling us, which is awesome. It's going to be good. So let's kick it off with some build-up. We had the international break, and usually these things are pretty rough, and everybody's just can't wait for Juve to get back into action. But this one was pretty sweet. We had the Azzurri playing two fantastic matches, and Bernardeschi putting in some great shifts for the Azzurri, and they qualified for the Nations League finals, which will be the knockouts. And it's actually about a year away, I guess. It won't be till next October or sometime. But other than that, the great news was after this international break, we got Ligt and Sandro back in the line, which was awesome. So, Jimmy, were you able to take in the Azzurri matches?
Yeah, so normally I get a little depressed during the Azzurri matches because I'm so used to having DAZN and getting my access to watch Juve anywhere and everywhere, in the office, on my phone if I need to. With the Azzurri, with the international break, it's always harder to find a feed. TLN isn't the greatest here in Canada. So my brother actually tipped me up to the UEFA .tv site, so I was able to catch both games, and pleasantly surprised by our number, the new number 20 for the Azzurri, who looked fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. And that UEFA TV, it's actually free, is it not?
Yeah, it's free to download, and I'm sure they're gonna get you hooked, and then you have to pay for it later. But
Yeah, it's free
take
as of
advantage
now,
of the
anyway.
market.
So if
Yeah.
anybody was looking for ways to catch it, that UEFA TV right as of now is free. But yeah, no, that's great. And yeah, we talk about Bernardeschi. I mean, that's one of the stories that was leading up to this particular match with Cagliari, coming off the strong showings. And it was reported Pirlo may try him out in the middle of the park. And I was all for it. I've kind of always been, hey, if you're in form, let's play the guys that are hot at the moment, and we need to start rolling in the wins basically, and get those victories multiplying and get the points going, so that we can move in the right direction, especially after that letdown against Lazio. So I was fine with it. Let's see what he can do. He's got a short leash with Juve for sure, and the Bernardeschi we saw with the Azzurri has not been the Bernardeschi we've seen for Juve. So the common talk amongst all Juvetini was get that Azzurri kit underneath his Juve kit so that he could play to that level. But the lineup we had was Buffon, and Buffon actually passed an anniversary, an incredible one, 25 years since the guy's debut. And that's absolutely incredible. Like, it is insane. It's insane to think about, and sometimes you got to almost pinch yourself to realize that you've got Cristiano Ronaldo and Gigi Buffon at times on the pitch at the same time. Like, it's wild, man. But Buffon gets to start at the back, obviously with Chiellini and Bonucci injured. We weren't very surprised to see Demiral and De Ligt at the back there. Danilo has been incredible under Pirlo. It's been fantastic. And then we have Cuadrado, and Cuadrado got the captain's armband. And that was a bit of a discussion too leading up to it. And we'll get to the captaincy and whatnot for sure. A lot of shouts for Buffon, but we know Buffon, he said he wouldn't take it anymore when he came back after his little 1-year stint at PSG. So Cuadrado getting rewarded with it. Quadrado had a lot of nice things to say about it after he got it. And, I asked the question about captaincy and whatnot, and just trying to see where people stood on it. If they think it really, a lot of people just think it doesn't matter whatsoever, and it's just a piece of cloth and whatnot, and they're fine with how Juve does it with the list of appearances and whatnot. But, this is a situation where if it was to be the actual captain for a season, I can't see him do it because it needs to go to a true leader, or just one of your crucial 11s. And for a one-off or whatnot, that's probably usually how they do it and reward it. So I was fine with it, but I was curious to see where people stand on it. A lot of people don't think it matters whatsoever. But I think it does, and I think it holds a lot of weight because, the Juventus shirt on its own holds a lot of weight, and we see what it can do to certain players that can't match the expectations. And it does multiply when you have that armband on you. And what do you think, James, with the lead up and Quadrado getting it and the captaincy and a lot of people saying it really doesn't matter? Do you think it does matter, or is it not a big deal?
In this particular case, as a one-off game, I have no issues with them giving the armband to Quadrado. It's a reward for loyalty. It's a reward for being a player who's pretty much done, especially for him, everything that was asked of multiple managers. He's playing out of position. You never hear him complain to the press. This was a reward for him. So I have no issues with him being given the armband. I think the other factor too for others to kind of take into consideration is, Chiellini is our captain. Bonucci's our vice. The second vice is Dybala. They were all three not available. Next after that, I believe, based off of the rule of caps, it would have been Sandro. So Sandro wasn't in the starting lineup. So for this one-off, no problem. Now, if we're going to go into the future, into a season, which we're probably going to be having this debate next year, as this most likely will be Chiellini's last year, then that's where the debate of a true leader needs to wear the armband.
Yeah.
One of the benefits, and Corrado said it in his post-game interview, there are so many leaders on this Juventus team that the armband right now is more of a symbol than anything in particular. You have Buffon, as mentioned. Really, the armband should go to him. He's come back with this philosophy since his 1-year stint at PSG. Is I'm just a regular guy. I'm not the leader. I'm not going to be that. I'm not taking a spot up for others. So you have Buffon. You have arguably the GOAT, who's the captain for Portugal. He's not wearing it. In fact, I remember there was a game where it was handed to him during a substitution. He handed it off to Matuidi. Again,
yeah. That's another thing, as Quadrado said in his interview that you brought up, is that, there's a lot of leaders on here. And then, the thing with Cristiano, because it was between the two of them, it was reported it was going to be Quadrado or Cristiano. And Ronaldo doesn't need it. He's one of those guys, he doesn't need it. He'll lead anyways. He does it by example. He does it in his performances. It is what it is. So he's a natural leader. But again, you can't help but wonder, especially certain guys, it could have that effect. It does have a weight to carry when you've got that armband, and it can either elevate certain players, which we've seen. It can elevate certain guys. They give a little more. You could see it in their intentions, and then other guys sometimes crumble. But for the most part, it was pretty cool to see. It was good for Quadrado. I really liked the interview he did after and the way he spoke of it and how proud he was. So it was pretty cool in that regard. To the midfield, Bernardeschi, Arthur, Rabiot, and Kulusevski. And then up top, Morata, Ronaldo. This lineup, I had no issues. The only thing I was trying to figure out was, were we going to do a 3-4-1-2? Was this going to be a 4-3-3? Was it going to be a 4-4-2 straight up? And, we get some funny tweets out there, and Eric Caserno Gibbs, who has been on the podcast before, he puts out a tweet and it says, I I've never realized I needed a PhD to figure out what kind of formation or lineup we're actually going to play. And it's so funny because you look at the players listed every time Pirlo comes up with one, and you're just trying to figure out the shape that's going to actually happen. Because when you watch Juve this year, it changes quite a bit. It fluctuates a lot in what actually happens on the pitch. And it's so funny because you'll see the listing, you'll see like a graphic come up on social media, and then as the game starts and they do the introductions and you see the graphics pop up there, and they almost never match up this whole season, every single game. And you're like, well, what the hell is it going to be? And then again, on the field, what you get is different than both of those. It's really funny, but it's keeping us all on our toes. But this lineup, I was happy with it. I had no issues with it. Again, I was just trying to see how we were going to play it out. I was hoping for a 4-3-3. But I like the lineup. Your thoughts on the starting 11?
Yeah, I like the starting 11. I like that they were rewarding Bernardeschi for his form from the Azzurri. Typically, it's rare that a player not in form gets a spot on the national team and then comes back in form. So it was a rare occurrence, and he was rewarded for it. In the midfield, the only surprise I had was with Arthur. I know he had the big game for Brazil. He scored his first international goal, but typically the South American players, when there is international duty, we typically give them a rest because of the jet lag. So he got the start, and then I know Rabiot did pick up a knock early in the week, but he did leave early to be prepared for this game. So, and Kulusevski also had a great international break as well.
Yeah, actually all the guys that were on duty did fantastic. Arthur did well, Rabiot did well, Bernardeschi did well, Kulusevski did well, Morata did great. They all did fantastic. We get into this match. We see the lineups there, and bit of a rocky start at the start of this. And I gotta say, it was like 5 minutes in, and I was a bit concerned. Especially Quadrado, and then again, just thinking, is he trying to do too much? Is he trying to just, is he playing out of his head a bit because of that armband or whatnot? But he started off really bad. And the first 5 minutes was sloppy as a team, but especially on that right side. And the only reason I think Quadrado's highlighted is because of how often we play through him. And that's why I'm bringing him up right now, because it was bad at the start, first 5 minutes. That Tripardelli there was he was taking it to him. He was all over him at the start. And the good news was Juve was able to fend it off, and it didn't take very long. And after that, it was literally all Juve that entire half. It was beautiful. I mean, we get the 11th minute where we think our boy, who we're hoping can get the momentum going and keep it rolling from the Azzurri, Bernardeschi, with a very, very nice hit. Keeper gets a little bit of hand to it, but it gets in. Called back because of the Spanish Inzaghi, strikes again. Morata just leaning a little bit too far forward. Man, that guy. It's crazy to think the amount of goals he would have and be assisting on if those offsides were actually good. Like, his stats would be insane right now, Morata. But he gets caught on that one. Unlucky, but I did like the buildup. I liked the way we moved the ball and got into that area. And I liked the fact that Bernardeschi had the confidence to rip that thing without thinking. So it was good. It was a good positive. We start to see some nice give and goes between CR7 and Kulusevski, Morata. And one with Morata, he just plays the ball. If he could have led Ronaldo on this one, I'm convinced it would have been a goal. But he couldn't lead him. The pass was a bit behind. CR7 ends up going to ground, getting knocked down. They were lobbying for PK, but I saw nothing there. I wouldn't have called it. Would you have called that particular play?
Not on that one.
Yeah. Yeah, there was nothing there. We move on. Then we got 22nd minute, and Kulusevski's in tight. He draws some defender and slots it over to CR7, but his shot goes wide. But again, we've got options, and everybody's showing. The off-ball movement was fantastic. had a lot of options. All our players had options. 25th minute, Morata tries to slip one through to CR, and this defender slides in there and just gets toes to it. Otherwise, like, that's got to be – I can't see him missing from that. It would have been him in a whole lot of net there. 28th minute, Kulishevsky, after an incredible ball by Danilo, huge, beautiful cross-field switch, angled to the corner flag. Quadrado gets to the end of it, finds Kulishevsky, who just puts this thing wide in what's becoming his little area. And that goal he scored for Sweden was right in that same little pocket there from the right, where he seems to slot on the ground to the far post. So unlucky there. And then 29th minute, a minute later, really, CR7 just playing with his defender and getting into the byline to make a nice cross, but nobody was home on that one. And then 36th minute, again, Bernardeschi. Quadrado wins a free kick. He takes the free kick, puts it in. It gets cleared, but it falls right to Bernardeschi. And again, I was just pumped that he had the confidence to hit this thing on the volley first time. Unfortunately, went straight to the keeper, but I like that he's that confidence that we were hoping he would get out of those good performance. You could see it in him, and it was good. And then a couple minutes later, CR7 with a great finish. Again, I was just pumped that we were able to sustain the pressure. It was one of the big things I noticed through this first half and this 35 minutes, 38 minutes. We were sustaining pressure, and the big part of that was the play coming from the back, especially with Matthias de Ligt back, because Bonucci doesn't play that style. Bonucci's more the backup guy, back off, and de Ligt is not. De Ligt is foot on the throttle. He's going up, and Demiral was doing the same thing. We sustained the pressure, kept the ball in there, worked it to Morata, who found CR, and then CR, a la Del Piero, far post, beats his guys, and even sticks the tongue out. 1-0 Juve. Your thoughts on their game up until this point when it's 1-0, and your thoughts on CR with the little Del Piero celly there.
Yeah. Well, I do know that that they are cordial with each other. So and CR does respect the history of Juventus. So that wasn't just done on a whim. I'm sure it was done with some significance. The goal was coming. We were building up. It was just a matter of time, and you always knew it was going to be him who was gonna bury it. And he doesn't need too many opportunities when he's got a clear-cut chance like that, and put it in the back of the net.
Yeah, it was a beautiful finish. I was pumped and well deserved. Like you said, that goal was always coming. We were all over them, and we didn't even have to wait much longer for another one. As basically 40. Well, we had some other chances in between from the 38th to the 41st. Kulu actually gets a shot. It gets deflected, goes out for a corner, and right there, 42nd minute, corner, and Demiral does a great job getting in the air. He was a beast in the air this entire match. It was fantastic to see. Even de Ligt, we looked dangerous on our set pieces. That was another thing I noticed, because it hasn't been the story for Juve for quite some time. So it was good to see those guys adding that element for us. And 42nd minute on that corner, Demiral with a great precision header. And who's there? I can't believe he's free like that. And Cagliari, if you're watching the tape, you guys are going to puke, because I don't know how you leave the GOAT, one of the best ever play, one of the best goal scorers probably ever, open like that in the area. And he had to make a hell of an awkward finish to put that thing, because it was behind him, and what a hell of a finish. And he's your thoughts on this goal?
Yeah, there's only a few people in the world who could have put that in, and he's one of them. And luckily, he's wearing black and white stripes. Just seeing that, seeing it live, you kind of did the eyebrow and how did he do that? And when you see the replay, you truly appreciate that ball was behind him.
Oh yeah,
How
to
he
generate that much power was impressive.
Yeah, it wasn't just a fluke that it hit his body and went in. He basically altered it, put the power behind it in the back of the net, 2-0, and it was looking like he was going to route it for us.
Yeah, absolutely. We go into halftime. It's 2-0. And honestly, man, I'm ecstatic. This is the least amount of stress I've felt watching Juve play in a long time. Like, it was just everything was clicking. Arthur looked fantastic, dropping very, very deep, and just his decisions were all on point. His passing was on point, and he was moving the ball quickly when he had to, and taking his time when he could. Like, it was just a good mix, because leading up until this point, my one criticism of was he was eating the ball too long and slowing things down way too much. But the tempo, the way he was controlling it was fantastic in this one. Rabiot, I thought, was doing well. Bernardeschi was shining there. That half, Kulishevsky, he had some moments, but he was good too. Everybody really did good. I mean, a couple guys started off rocky at wing back there, but they both kind of settled in and got it going. Yeah, it was great. Like I said, I'm looking for the second half for us to kill it early, and move on, get some changes in, rest some guys as these guys have come back from international break, and move forward. What were you thinking at halftime?
Yeah, pretty similar. The commentators had mentioned that Ronaldo's first Serie A hat trick was against them. I was thinking he was probably going to get that hat trick, and it was going to be the ball of time, give Ronaldo the rest for the midweek game. And yeah, it's more. My thoughts were, let's get another one early and take advantage of the 5 subs, give the kids good runs, get the ball of some time, and even Chiesa some time to take the field.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, let's get to it. The second half here, 46 minute, and we get right into it again. CR7 just couldn't get a pass over to Murata, who's making a great run. This was a counter attack, and again, it's just one of those unfortunate things, because we were generating so much in this game that just it felt like these passes were sometimes just a little too short or a little bit behind. And sometimes guys are passing when they should be shooting, or shooting when there is a pass there. And it's just like those little things. But again, I think it'll come in time, because when you look at how this team has been going, it's a huge move in the right direction. Just the fact that we can generate so much like we did in this particular half, and as we continued here early in the second, and then 52nd minute, Quadrado's working in the area there. He ends up getting a shot blocked, goes off for the corner, and again, like we said, we look dangerous on set pieces too, and Demirel gets up for this header off this, and he just smashes this thing off the crossbar. So unfortunate for us not to be that one, because that 100% would have killed it, no question. And then I think we would have probably got some subs around the 60th minute, had that go in. But yeah, unfortunately, not the case. 55th minute, Bernardeschi actually forces a decent save from the keeper. It was a little bit too close to him, whatnot, but it was still a tricky play. The dummy coming from CR. Very, very unselfish. But again, we talk about these the little differences in shooting when you should, passing when you should. I was shocked that he dummied this ball. Watching that play at full speed and everything, I'm thinking, man, there's your Hattie. Like, just smash that thing. And I would have never expected him to dummy that. And he's probably thinking that Cagliari's not going to expect him to dummy that either, and Berna's going to be sitting there back post alone. But yeah, very, very unselfish play, but I thought he should have smashed it. What were you thinking, James?
Yeah, seeing it live, I thought he missed it. He was on the hat trick. Normally, 9 out of 10 times he would have buried that. But he is, as much as certain Twitter universe might think, he is an unselfish player, and he knew that number 33 needed one for his confidence and was in a good spot. He let it go for him. For the commentators did say, "Oh, Berna should have put it to the other side." I kind of think he was limited by the position of the defender in front of him. Good shot, but this is one of Berna's criticisms: is he's not a great finisher. But I can't see anything wrong with the shot and with the dummy as well. So it was just unfortunate. The goalie was on top of it, and most goalies would have been jumping the other way, thinking Ronaldo would have shot. So it should have been a free goal. So credit to the keeper as well for keeping up with the play.
You betcha. That's a good shout too. 56 minute, we get a very, very bad pass by Danilo. Ends up with a shot from about 30 some yards out. It ends up being harmless, but he apologized to his teammates and put his hands up, which I actually appreciated. The fact that he just, go to that extent and acknowledge, like, everybody, that's my bad and whatnot. And I saw him take a bit of flack in some post-match comments on media and just saying he was the worst. And I didn't actually agree with that he was our worst player in this match. I said you'd have a tough time picking the worst player because I thought everybody actually did a solid job. But it was, someone had mentioned he was by far the worst. And I think they're just looking at ratings, but I saw some ratings that actually flipped. I saw one set of ratings that had Cuadrado a hell of a lot higher than Danilo. And then I saw another one that was reversed, and Danilo was about 1.5 points higher than Cuadrado. So I didn't have neither one of them as my lowest ranking, to be honest. I had them above. I think my lowest probably went to Morata or the subs, McKennie or Dybala. But I thought Danilo, he's continuing what he's been doing, which is actually just being fantastic. Pirlo has done wonders with Danilo. So, yeah, I thought it was a bit harsh for him to have to take that. I didn't think he was bad at all. Did you think he was awful in this one?
No, I think he was solid, rock solid. He never had one kind of standout little offensive moment, which maybe that hurt his ratings. I know there was in the last game where he just did this one dummy type of deke around a defender that made you catch his eye. But that's one of the issues when you are a defender. Your job is to not make noise, and I think he did a good job there.
Yeah, I saw him get deducted a bunch because they were saying basically he got dribbled on several times, the most times out of our players. But honestly, the way we play in that setup, the guys that are on the outside are susceptible the most to getting dribbled on because of the stretch. They're at the back and trying to just close out those flanks there. So really, when he did get dribbles, nothing critical. There was never any danger. Cagliari barely got a sniff of anything in this one, honestly. So, how hard could we be on any of our defenders really in this one? But we move on, and then we got the 61st minute. We get an opportunity from Cagliari going through Rogue that ends up going high over the goal and whatnot. But it was right around this time where I started to notice the energy drop for Juve. I did see some posts, some Juventini getting a little bit frustrated and saying, "Oh, here we go. Now we're shutting everything down or whatnot." But I still felt like, yeah, we definitely, you could see it. You could see the huge drop and the shift going into, cruise control or whatnot. But we're still generating counterattacks. So it wasn't all just completely sit back, and our counters have looked better than they have for many, many years, to be honest. So I wasn't terribly upset with it, but did you notice a bit of a shift around that 60 to 60?
Yeah, typically.
Were you kind of calling for some subs? It seems a lot of Juventini were wanting subs at that time. Did you want some changes to be made?
It was getting about that time, especially with the international break. You want to give the mid a freshen up. I think we're kind of used to Sarri, who 60-minute like clockwork. He always kind of made a sub.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, there was a little bit of a drop. I know Cagliari had made some changes too, which changed the tempo. But, games go through peaks and valleys, and, they were able to fight off that valley and came out on top of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, honestly, you can kind of criticize Pirlo for that almost in all his matches. It seems that that's his one thing, is the substitutions. Sometimes they don't make sense, but I feel like the timing is always strange. And you might be right. It might be because of what we were used to at them, like clockwork, but I don't know, like you kind of hit the nail on the head when you're thinking about these guys coming back from international break, and when you're watching the game and you see that decline, you see that switch off, you'd think you want to, like, let's go for the kill, let's freshen it up, let's just pick it up a bit, let's get an energy guy in there. Like McKennie, for instance, would have been a decent shout to enter that match, because the guy's full of energy all the time. I don't even think it matters that he went on international break. Like, he's just, that's his game. He always looks rare to go, which is awesome. But yeah, that's probably the only one thing you could really pick on a first-time coach, really, like Pirlo. I mean, maybe it's something that will change as the matches go, but I feel like sometimes there's a bit of a disconnect there. It's something I've said in previous episodes. It's just, it'll be something to watch for sure. We saw him get caught with, was it Rabiot too, with a red card, taking a second yellow when everybody's saying, man, you got to get him out of there, right? So playing with fire sometimes too. But we get going here, and then 64th minute again, even though the energy dropped, we're still getting some counters here. There was a great run by Bernardeschi. He ends up finding Morata, and I don't know how Morata missed that, especially with the form he's in. That should have been one of the killers to make it 3-0. But unfortunate for not only Morata, but Bernardeschi too, who I think deserved something on the stat sheet, whether it was an assist or a goal. Definitely deserved it. 68th minute, and Ronaldo gets bailed out by offside for one of the worst clearance attempts I've probably ever seen. A nonchalant back heel. Mind-blowing stuff. What did you think when you saw that, James?
I think he knew it was offside, and that's why he nonchalantly put the leg out. When I saw it live, I caught it by all my naked eye that it was offside, so I think he knew it as well. But now, as the way the rules are, they give that benefit of the doubt and they let the play go on. Yeah. So I know the internet went crazy, Twitter world went crazy, saying, "Oh, he's slacking. What was he doing?" But I think the GOAT knew.
I hope you're right, because that was shocking stuff to watch. But yeah, let's go with that. Let's go with the GOAT knew. And we got some changes being made shortly after. Dybala, McKennie come in, Rabiot and Morata out. And yeah, honestly, in the middle of the park, take your pick. They both came back from international duty, so whether you take Arthur or you take Rabiot out, we know Rabiot got a knock, so totally fine with it. McKennie was on international duty too, get him a run in. Dybala needs to get minutes going, and he's going to have to find his form through sub appearances. That's just the way it's got to be. Morata cannot be denied, despite him not having his finishing boots in this one, and despite living offside like the Spanish Inzaghi that we know him to be. He's a lock in that lineup. And then, of course, you have CR. So it's going to be hard for Dybala. He has got to get it together. News coming out from Pirlo, actually, this morning that he's actually been on antibiotics, still trying to deal with that bladder infection, basically. But Pirlo was happy that the energy was there. And that's all I could really say, because there wasn't a whole lot of time for McKennie or Dybala in this one. McKennie made a great couple challenges, and his energy was through the roof. Dybala had good energy, and his touch looked a lot better, a lot cleaner. But that's all you could really pick out of this one. Dybala got an opportunity again, fed by Bernardeschi, who did a great job to find him. Just sailed it wide, unfortunately, high and wide. 85th there, actually 86th, we get Bentancur in, Arthur comes out. We get Chiesa and Sandro coming in, Kulusevski and Danilo out. And again, this is great to see Chiesa, the fact that he's not terribly bothered, I guess, by the knock, come in, get some minutes. Sandro is the big one, getting him back. This will give an opportunity for a guy like Danilo to get some rest. It'll be interesting how Pirlo is going to work the guys now. And this is something we'll get into a little bit later here now that he gets that option back. So that was good to see. And then that's really it. We see it out again. Bernardeschi gets another attempt to pretty much wrap up the game with a shot that gets deflected. But it was a very, very comfortable, solid 2-0 victory. Very, very happy with all the guys' performances. And if we had to, and again, the only thing I could say, and if you really, really had to nitpick, is just getting clinical. That's it. This could have been a rout easily, like you said earlier. This could have been a rout. We got unfortunate with Demiral going off the bar, and we had Kulusevski just barely missing one, and then we had Morata, Dybala. Like Bernardeschi was setting guys up, and Bernardeschi unlucky not to have a couple to his name. This could have been a rout. We did take the foot off the throttle in the second, kind of cruise, but we were still getting counterattacks. And the biggest thing for me, again, like I said, the clinical part, which I know a lot of Juventus were frustrated about, it's going to come, but you got to be pumped with how many opportunities we created, and seeing literally everybody in the lineup put in a solid shift. It's hard to take any negatives out of this one. James, your thoughts after the 90?
Yeah, it was one of those typical Juve performances where they did enough to get the victory. Would have liked, compared to our performances under the Allegri area, where once we would have gotten that 2-0, we would have just basically played keep away possession ball, but we kept pressing, we kept looking for that goal, we kept trying to create those opportunities. You had Berna feeding Dybala. You had Ronaldo doing a dummy to Berna. They were looking for each other, and that's going to go a long way as the season progresses.
Absolutely, and it's great that you touch on that too, because we've got a few questions and comments post-match from Juventini, and the first one coming from Juve Loco actually is their thoughts were just nice game overall. I like that all forwards looked for each other. There was one or two occasions of overplaying rather than just getting the shot off, and a huge improvement from Bernardeschi. Yeah, absolutely right. And it's the one thing you can notice is how much everybody was involved. Play didn't just go through one player and try to get forced to CR. Everybody was involved. The movement off the ball, everybody was trying to be an option. The wing backs were huge support. Like, that's the deepest I've seen Cuadrado go for quite some time. And I don't think that it's a coincidence. Demiral and De Ligt were at the back and offered that freedom because De Ligt and Demiral were absolutely incredible. I talked about it on the CR first goal, is the sustained pressure. The fact that with those guys, they're not scared to keep that line high, which is what Pirlo needs to accomplish that press that he wants. He wants that high press. And it's one thing I've noted on this podcast for several episodes. It's the one thing we've been missing is when we hit the scene out of the gate with Pirlo, that press was intense. The line was up there, but then all of a sudden you started to see how a bit jittery and shaky we were at the back. And because of that. And it was almost like this fear that set in after we played Roma, because Roma found that gap between the middle and our center backs and our defense who were backing off. And ever since then, it hasn't been quite right. Ligt, Demiral, they offered nothing to those guys and swallowed it up whole. Cuadrado did, for the most part, a pretty good job on João Pedro. All the guys did a good job of basically canceling him out. He was dropping so deep, but he always had somebody on him. Huge part of Cagliari right there, João Pedro. And he's trying this new role as trequartista. He's been doing a fantastic job for Cagliari. So if Pirlo tipped them off on doing that, kudos to him because they shut him down and it all goes through him, and he didn't have a chance to breathe in this one. So yeah, it was great to see. You knew we were going to talk about captaincy, and Luca comes in with his question. He goes, who should be the future Juve captain and why is it De Ligt? Man, it's amazing. It makes me so happy to see the guy back in the lineup. He's just a force. I asked this question while he was on the injury table there, waiting for him to come back. And I said, we were all struggling defensively. We didn't know how, what was the reason? Is it just the personnel? Is it system, whatnot? And I asked a question. I said, when De Ligt comes back, will our defensive woes fade? Will they go away, or is it the system? A huge part of it is him, for sure, no question. The style that he plays, that he's a natural leader, and in this one, if you watched the play as it was happening and you kept an eye on him, I spotted it a lot of times, but you can see him barking the orders, directing traffic, pointing, yelling, screaming, looking over his shoulder all the time. Like his head's on a swivel. Like this guy is playing well beyond his years, no doubt. He'll make a huge difference. The other thing is, what did it do for Demiral? Demiral has looked out of place in Pirlo's setup since his first minute in this setup. And in this one, he looked right at home, and the two of them looked unstoppable. It's night and day. So future captain, absolutely, you can see it. You can see it 100%. And I made a shout that I would be fine with De Ligt getting the captaincy now in circumstances where our true captain and stuff isn't there. When I'd be fine with doing it now. But there was people saying it would be too much of a risk. It'd be too much of a risk because of his age and putting that pressure on him, and using the wage, the transfer fee, for us to bring him in. And I don't see it. I mean, this kid was 18, 19, captained Ajax to one of their best years since the 90s. He's an all-out leader. Like, do you think there's a risk there? I think we both agree you could definitely see him as a future Juve captain. That interview's already mastered Italian, which is kind of crazy. Do you think there's a risk there in giving it to him too soon?
No, I think there's certain, as we talked about earlier in the pod, there's certain people who are natural leaders that they don't need the armband to lead. He's already proven that, but he's also had the armband for a large club like Ajax, so he has that experience. Will he be a future captain for Juventus? I think he, the fact that he spoke perfect Italian in that interview was just amazing. After it's technically only 1 year here, and you don't do that if you're just going to be one and done and go to Barcelona, like some people on Twitter like to say. He wants to be here for a while. With that being said, as our young players go, I think Chiellini is pretty much done this year. I don't see Bonucci being a regular starter into next year with De Ligt and Demiral. So then that opens it up for a spot for him, whether it's going to be Dybala as the captain and De Ligt as the vice, which would mean most likely as the vice he gets quite a bit of the armband, just based off of form and performances and lineups. Because as a central back, you're typically the first name on the sheet. Yeah, it's the problem. I would bet on it that he will be the future captain.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it would be no surprise. And like I said, I mean, this is one of the interesting things too when talk about captaincy. And, I asked the question over social media and I said, do you agree in the appearance hierarchy? And for me, the reason I don't is because of a situation that could come up, basically because of the return of De Ligt. De Ligt's return, to me, here you have Chiellini, whose body just isn't up to it. He knows it. Juve knows it. Everybody knows it. It's a sad thing, but the guy's given everything he has for Juve. His body just can't keep up. There's no doubt in my mind this will be it for Chiellini this season. Then you have Bonucci. Bonucci has been on a very, very steady decline defensively. And, for this guy to have the armband, for me, a hierarchy of appearances and what a guy's given and whatnot, I don't know, because to me, you also have to be one of the first names on the list. And right now I'm having a tough time making that guy a first name on the list. To me, De Ligt is a lock. He's in there. Hands down. Demiral's night and day with De Ligt there than when Bonucci was there. Chiellini, if Chiellini's fit, for me, he's got to be in there too. Like, there's no doubt his ability is there. The unfortunate thing with him is that every single minute that he plays, he's at risk of it being the last injury. Like he plays a game, he's out for a month. And that's what you kind of get with him. You get quality minutes, each and every one of them. But yeah, and that's why it creates this little issue. But for me, when Bonucci gets healthy, I don't know if I'm scrapping De Ligt for him, and if Chiellini's healthy and Bonucci's healthy, man, I don't know. I don't think Bonucci's making the lineup for me, man, to be honest. And I think Arthur showed a huge reason why even the ball playing at the back isn't really going to matter if he starts playing the way he did against Cagliari and as he gets more comfortable, because he's dropping way back and he's calling the shots. And he did it with a hell of a lot more tempo and confidence than Bonucci has for some time too. So I don't know. Your thoughts on all of this?
Yeah, I think a healthy De Ligt is first name on the sheet. And then it's now going to be a battle for that to line up beside him. So Chiellini, it's going to be his battle with his health. And then Demiral, he needs to basically, he had a great game. He needs to continue to play with that, build some consistency so that he can be that automatic starter and push Bonucci out. Unfortunately, with hierarchy and with his reputation, Bonucci's going to get that spot right now, and Demiral's got to play his way onto it and make the most of his opportunities.
Yeah, that's I agree. That's exactly what he's got to do. I mean, it's shocking to have to think that there would be a scenario where he starts above these guys. It can't happen, and based on his performances. So what else would it really be other than just appearances and name and experience, really? But you can't deny De Ligt right now. There's just no way. The nice thing out of it all is Pirlo has options, and even if Bonucci had to be the one coming off the bench, you take any of those guys off the bench, man, that's pretty sweet, to be honest. Mm-hmm. Having the opportunity to take these guys off the bench. So it'll be interesting to see what ends up happening once everybody's fully fit. Now, we talked a bit about De Ligt's return, and is it system or writes in his question, and it was, is it me or does this flat 4-4-2 seem to fit the players, even Bernardeschi? Yeah, I mean, this particular match, I mean, again, we'll have to see. It's got some flex to it. It's not always that straight 4-4-2. It kind of turned into a 4-2-4 attacking, but sometimes Kulishevsky would drift a little bit centrally. He never went free. He was never full free, but sometimes he would find the hole there and kind of drop down in between the forwards. It's got a little bit of I know Pirlo's trying to achieve this fluidity through it, so it kind of morphs and changes, and it especially does when new players are introduced through substitutions. And it's one of those things that you're constantly watching at Juve, and you're constantly trying to figure out like who's going where, what are they doing, right? What's happening? And if we can get it going, and if Pirlo finds out a way where everybody's kind of comfortable in the roles that they have to do and whatnot, it could be a very dangerous thing, because as an opponent, how do you face something that's constantly evolving or changing, like especially on the fly with a substitution or whatnot? So it's kind of intriguing in that sense. But does this flat 4-4-2 seem to fit the players a bit better? I think it's more personnel. I think it depends on the guys. And I think that's kind of what Pirlo's doing, and that's why you see the changes and whatnot, because certain guys have been exposed when a role calls for a little more defensive duty than attacking, where they're stronger or whatnot. But a lot of this one did play. You saw it as 4-3-3 at some points, and at some points, like I said, you saw 4-2-4, all those guys up in attack. Sometimes you saw it as a 4-2-1-3. Like it's kind of all over the map, right? But I think for this particular one, it worked like a hot damn, really. He nailed it. Kulishevsky is a bit of a wild one for me, because he's got moments, man, where that brilliance comes through and you see how gifted and what a genius he is, but he also struggles in some kind of basic scenarios too. So it's kind of a weird one. But what did you think about this flat 4-4-2 and what we saw against Cagliari? And was it more the opponent, or do you think, is there a particular formation you think suits our players better? What do you think?
I think it's kind of gone out of fashion that a 4-4-2 works, but a 4-4-2 works. The master Marcello Lippi used the 4-4-2 back in 2006 to win the World Cup. With the personnel that we do have, and Del Piero touched on it earlier this season, we have that 4-4-2 that can turn into the 4-2-4 with the wingers that we have. So we have Kulishevsky can do it. We have Bernardeschi can jump, and now especially with Chiesa, they have that ability. I believe, and I know Ronaldo had this as well with Zidane in his last year at Real Madrid, where they moved him more centrally from the wing side, and he's been playing better. So it actually fits Ronaldo better. I think the other big key thing is it fits Dybala better being as a 2 instead of being drifting out on the wing as well. Now defensively, 4-4-2, perfect. Offensively, based off of the movement off the ball, it could switch into any of those formations based off of the runs. So Kulishevsky can easily drift centrally, and then now it becomes a 4-3-1-2, or vice versa, just depending on the situation. Let's pick a guy. Bernardeschi makes the run, darts forward, and now it's a 4-3-3. So that's that flexibility that Piero had talked about in his thesis, and we're starting to see it. But at the core, it's got to start as something. So I do think the 4-4-2 allows you to make those transformations within the game.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, I hope that this was, obviously we all hope it's not just a matter of the opponent. I mean, You can't even really say that because Cagliari's a pesky side. I mean, I said it in my preview going into this. They had 2 goals and they scored 2 goals in their past 5 straight games. Like, they're a little bit tenacious, and we saw it out of the gate. We were just able to neutralize it and then cause them all sorts of problem by owning possession. So, yeah, I'd like to think that it's starting to come together for Pirlo. But, of course, time will tell, and we'll see what ends up happening. Speaking of the performance itself, Gani writes in, do you think the team performance against Cagliari is the best display from Pirlo's Juve so far? The first half, absolutely, no question. Is it the best performance overall? I don't know. Is it for you?
The first half, yes, definitely best performance. But as the overall game, I would still say it's the first game against Sampdoria.
Yeah. And it's tough for me to choose between those two, but I might have to agree with you. And I think the Sampdoria one, but this one's really, really good too, though. But by all means, I mean, Cagliari didn't really get a sniff. Sampdoria, though, a bit of a tougher opponent than Cagliari. So, yeah, I'd have to agree that was probably the better one because we essentially neutralized Cagliari, Sampdoria, who's, got a bit more bite, I think, offensively anyways. But, let's get to another one here. And I think, any relation here? Mario Martino and Bernardeschi or Dybala? Who would you sell? Next question, where does Dybala fit in Pirlo's tactics besides the bench? So he definitely saw us on another pod there, and we had a very, very spirited, healthy, actually I found a very, very fun debate on Dybala and whatnot. Look, I'm going to keep it really, really consistent in what I've always said, and if a guy's performing and he brings a lot to your team, I wouldn't sell him. So if we had to pick between these two, obviously you want to say you keep Dybala. For me, I want to say keep Dybala because I think as far as the two players are concerned, Dybala's far more talented, gives you a lot more output, and he's had only one bad season out of the 5 or 6 he's been with Juve. I think 5. So I would obviously pick him straight out of the gate. But if by some, crazy scenario where Dybala just can't get things right this year throughout the season, and Bernardeschi can do what he has been doing, but actually do it for a season with us, then maybe you finally take the money for Dybala. And we need the money and stuff, but that would have to be it for me. Like, Bernardeschi would have to really, really do a lot for me to pick choosing him to stay over Dybala because of, I think Dybala's earned it over the history of his tenure with Juve. I just, for me, I think when I hear about the inconsistency, whatnot, I can only point to one bad season. But yeah, I'm not feeling that inconsistency thing out of him. I think it is a fair assessment when people say he needs to do better in Champions League, crucial matches. I think that's fair for sure. But I'm not really overall feeling the inconsistency thing. And I think right now he's dealing with it's just been a bad run. He got COVID last break. He got injured in that Champions League knockout match, took him forever to get healthy. Then he's like some bladder infection that for whatever reason isn't disclosed. And now it's disclosed that he's barely trained before he played his first 15 minutes and everybody was all over him. I don't know. I think he's getting a bit of a short end of a stick, but between these two, Bernardeschi would have to do a hell of a lot. Where does Dybala fit in Pirlo's tactics? I don't really know yet. And it's hard to really figure out because I still haven't really figured out Pirlo 100% yet. So, to try and figure out what we're going to do at Dybala, I can't figure out if Dybala is deciding to drop deep all the time on his own or if Pirlo's giving him that freedom. Or it's tough for me because he's replacing Morata, who when you watched Juve at the start, Morata was moving everywhere. And he stayed in the center at the heart right up front. Dybala doesn't do that for whatever reason, but he's taken off the guy that does. So it's a very strange thing. So to me, if you're Pirlo, you've got to get that under wraps, because if he's taken off the guy that's there, you still need somebody there. Mm-hmm. So it's a really weird one on that front. But James, your thoughts out of the two? Who are you selling? And how do you fit Dybala in here for this season?
Okay, so I think if we were going to be selling, we'll probably be selling either both of them, or both of them will be staying. It's all depending on their form and exactly what you can get for them. You don't want to lose money by selling them. If we are going to sell them, it's going to be for a profit. Between the two of them as well, it's the player's will. So we know that they tried to sell Dybala prior. Dybala said, I ain't going anywhere. We also know, we heard those rumors as well earlier this year, that they tried to do the same with Bernardeschi. So it's up to both players. What is encouraging is Piero has given them both the opportunity to play. He is not freezing them on the bench. So it's their both make it or break it years. As we mentioned earlier on the pod, Bernardeschi had a rare case where he went to a national team out of form and came back in form. A few things that I like with Berna is he can play multiple positions. The drag on that is because he's playing multiple positions, he sometimes gets lost and is inconsistent because he's playing multiple positions. Dybala, to me, Dybala is a unique player, and he's hard for a manager to put in a formation around. Prior to Ronaldo, the formation was built around Dybala. With Ronaldo, you have to build the formation around Ronaldo. So he's kind of been the odd man out. So he needs to adapt to the coach in front of him. Can he play a 4-3-3? I don't see him as playing a 4-3-3 on the wing. Can he play as the false nine? We saw some success under Sarri as a false nine, but it looks like Piero doesn't want to do the false nine. It looks like it is going to be a 2 at the front. So he's going to have to play a support striker or that Morata role. I see him more as the support striker and let Ronaldo be more on that side. Is that consistent? Is that going to get him the starting time? When Piero does decide to go with the Tranquista, it seems like he's picking Ramsey over Dybala as well. So these are things that he's going to have to play his way onto the team, and get that consistency, get that start. As you mentioned, there's a lot of other factors that we don't know about. There are some health issues that are there, and the good players play through it and move on. Hopefully he has this bad spell, and we see a good December out of him coming up. This is the opportunity. There's a lot of games really close together, and he's going to get a shot.
Yeah, I think part of the issue too is, for a while now we've seen him taking off Morata, but it's crazy to say it's a problem. It's a problem for Dybala, but I see him as, in order to thrive, needing Morata out there. I think he needs Morata to be that 9, and he can kind of find the spaces and play off another. And I think the two would be able to build a very, very fantastic chemistry. He can build chemistry with Ronaldo too, but they always had that 9 with them, really, last season when they thrived. There was a time there where everybody was on the HDR train, right? Higuain, Dybala, Ronaldo, and it was working and it was good. The two of them, they can do it. But in Pirlo's setup, that 9 is very, very important because it's the first look up forward. It's the pivot that you build off of and everything. Without that they're all going to suffer in some way, shape, or form. Ronaldo can get by with it because He's a bit of an anomaly. Obviously, he's a freak, right? But Morata is just huge for us right now. And that 9 role is huge for us right now. And Dybala, he's not playing it that way. He's not playing as a 9. Mm-hmm. So I think he's suffering because we're taking the 9 out, and then he's going out there and there's no actual 9 there. Ronaldo's got his freedom and he's doing his thing. Dybala is just, first of all, he's trying to get fit at the same time. But I think that's the issue. I think Dybala's best will be in moments where maybe Ronaldo's resting and you've got Morata and Dybala, and you can do that in a 3-5-2 or a 4-4-2. You could do it in both those setups where you have a 2-man front. And I think Dybala would definitely be able to replicate appearances he was able to put together when he and Higuain were strike partners, if not better, with Morata, because of what Morata has to offer. I think he's fantastic, and he's definitely happy in the circumstances he's at. But I think that's the one thing right now. But again, victim of the circumstances, because Ronaldo's not going anywhere. He is a lock in that lineup, right? So it's going to be really, really hard for Dybala, man. I really think it's going to be tough. What's going to happen? Who knows? Time will tell. We brought up Bernardeschi obviously in this question, and I did want to talk about him. You and I were discussing what night and day it is from Bernardeschi with the Azzurri to Bernardeschi with what Juve has received. And I'm just curious, do you think he could change the career trajectory at Juve, or is it too little too late now? Do you think he could turn it around and say he starts putting in shifts like this a little more frequently for the season, or do you think his time to Juve has already been determined and he's on his way out?
It's all in his hands right now. Do I see him on the Azzurri? He's playing. He's pretty much a lock on that right side, being able to cut in and shoot with his left. He's not going to have that position with Juve, and that's just because of the formation. So he's going to be exactly where he was today, on the left side of the midfield, and he'll be crossing off of that foot. Is this an opportunity for him to play a different position, show that he can handle it, and maybe even play that type of position for the Azzurri going forward? It happened with Zambrotta with a position change, and he became one of the best at that spot. So is it possible? It's possible, but I think right now his key is from now till January. And if he keeps that consistency when that January transfer window happens, he says, all right, I'm sticking with Juve. If he can't get himself back on the field and he starts to dip again, and then he has to talk to his agents to get me some playing time where I can come back. And whether that's going to be a short-term loan or whether it's going to be a true transfer, we'll see. But it was looking that way prior to the international break. But him, he strung together 4 great games, because they also played that friendly.
Yes.
So he's had 4 great games. If he keeps continuing that, then it looks like he's got his funk behind him and he's earned his spot back on the team. But anything can change, and it seems with him, his highs are highs and his lows are lows.
Oh yeah, big time. And it's just, the whole thing is just interesting. He's such a it's just strange. How often do you see a player that can't get time on his club play for his national side, and actually do well, with his national side, but not be able to offer those performances for his club, let alone get consistent minutes and whatnot? It's so backwards. But nonetheless, here we are. And the other interesting thing is rumors were ramping up that Bernardeschi was ready for a move out. And this was we're talking, 3 weeks ago that this started all circulating, that he's finally, okay with leaving Juve. And then, of course, the rumors of these squads in Italy, and he's that apparently have interest in Bernardeschi. And so the whole thing is interesting, like, do the performance start ramping up because he's trying to go somewhere, right? Like, it's strange, man. It's strange, but it'll be interesting to follow and see. It's definitely going to be a storyline that's going to be closely followed for this season, for sure, on this remainder. We've got another question here before we pretty much get close to wrapping up, but Abdul Rahman writes in, is it too early to worry about Bentancur's form? When we look at our midfield here, for me, I'm not so much worried about Bentancur's form. I just think he is going to be odd man out and just getting minutes here and there, and being the guy that provides rest, because, man, I think Arthur, if he can build off what he showed against Cagliari, which was by far his best so far since joining Juve, he's kind of doing that role that Bentancur would be doing as a holder and more controlling and the tempo and whatnot. He's kind of better than him at it, because Arthur is so much better in possession than Bentancur, and his decisions and how calm and cool he is on the ball is an upgrade on Bentancur as well. Rabiot is in tremendous form, has been for a while now, stringing in great performances, not only for Juve but for France as well. I think it's going to be tough for Bentancur. Then you have McKennie on the other hand, who is essentially the energy guy, and he's just winning balls, making great tackles, and just having a ton of energy. And he shows a willingness to get forward and contribute up top. And Bentancur's kind of that guy for me that's stuck in the middle, right? Because he doesn't really thrive in advanced positions. He can get by and he can make the odd play here and there where you're like, wow, that's fantastic. But he always leaves you, I feel like, wanting that extra bit more offensively. Then when you take him back and you put him as a holder and controlling there, he's good. He'll get you by, right? But I still feel like there's something missing there. I think he's going to have a tough time. I'm not necessarily worried about him and his form. I don't think he's going to get a lot of minutes. I think he's going to be on the outside looking in. The congested schedule and whatnot will help him obviously get some, but I don't know if he's going to break free and clear of those guys, to be honest. What do you think on Bentancur?
Yeah, so it all depends on the formation. Under Sarri with the three-man mid, he was able to play both roles, whether it was as that Holden and the old Pjanic role. He had some short-term success there, but he was more better on that right-hand side where he was making some runs forward. The only issue with that is he really didn't have that offensive touch to make those passes while he was there, the creativity or even the finish. With the two-man midfield, as you mentioned, I think starting 11 is always going to be Rabiot and Arthur, and he's got to again play his way onto it. Hope they have some bad form. With the congested schedule, here's his opportunity for it. We know he had his international break, unlike everybody else's, was troubling. Most of Uruguay squad had COVID. He tested negative, but it's always a scare when you have that happening. And hopefully everything's okay and he can start building. He'll probably get some more. He had a very short stint for this game, but he'll probably get more minutes going in on Tuesday. Yeah,
and that's another thing. We'll talk about that upcoming match or whatnot. But yeah, he'll get minutes. But he's really got to make something happen to show a little more there. In the appearances he has made, he hasn't really shone, or stuck out like he did in previous seasons. Maybe it is the system. there's a lot of new players on Juve too, right? Everyone's trying to gel. Everyone's trying to figure each other out and click. So, yeah, work in progress. Yeah, Arthur, man, if he can play like that and do that consistently, and Rabiot's been on a tear, so it'll be tough. Bentancur's got his work cut out for him. Last, certainly not least, with Sandro back, as we see him getting some minutes late in this match against Cagliari, a lot of Juventini asking what happens to Danilo and Quadrado. What happens there? Because what I saw getting thrown out there was Danilo's been in such great form that many are saying you drop Quadrado and you move Danilo over and make room for Sandro. I disagree. Gun to my head, these guys are all healthy. Sandro's the one just coming back. He's got to play his way back into the squad right now. Pirlo's been building on this right now. Danilo can't be denied. I don't think he should be, unless Sandro, when he comes in, shows that he can match that or go above it. So to me, Danilo and Quadrado stay put, and Sandro's got to work his way back in. And Sandro has needed competition for quite some time. Mm-hmm. So that's how I'm looking at it. James, how are you looking at it, man?
Yeah, we're on the same line of thought there. He's got to play his way back. I think both Daniela and Quadrado, they should be happy. They're going to get some rest.
Yeah,
they've been not just through this piece from this start of the season, but also into the tail end of last season. They've been playing like crazy, so this will give them an opportunity. And with Sandro, so now you have the ability where Sandro can start on the left, Daniela can move back on the right, give Corrado that rest for that one game. Vice versa, Corrado comes back, plays on the right, and Daniela can go back to the left. And then you also have Forbona as well in the mix, just to get the rotation going. With this COVID year, this is going to be another weird year where fitness and managing the players is going to be very important. A lot of, especially in the next little bit, I think there's like something ridiculous, 10 games within December, something like that.
Yeah.
So you can't expect Corrado to play all 10.
Yeah.
You're going to kill the guy. So these are the opportunities where Sandro coming back, I'm sure Corrado's the happiest guy on the team because he gets a rest.
Start getting some rest. Absolutely. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But I just, a lot of people just saying Sandro's back. He's left wing back. Like, that's his spot. I don't think so. I think he's got to earn it back. Danilo deserves a lot of credit for what he's done this season. And Quadrado, really, I mean, the same. I get frustrated as hell with him at times. But again, he isn't a right wing back. He's not a right back. So it's my frustration, I guess, is more in the sense that we have left holes in our lineup again from management, but Quadrado, I mean, yeah, he's done it. He hasn't complained. And for the most part, it hasn't been an issue. There's the odd defensive thing, but I said he's not the only one. We've seen it with Chiesa. Chiesa trying to play on the left wing back role and him struggling in the defensive phase at times. Kulishevsky's gone invisible when he's tried to do a little bit more of a defensive thing. We just got to make it work. We got to find what's the best for our personnel. There's no doubt what Pirlo's trying to do, and he's trying to maximize how many guys he can play that help offensively. He definitely wants to be a foot on the throttle team. He wants Juve to be a foot on the throttle type team. If he can get away with 3 guys that are straight up defenders, and really he's going with 2, and Quadrado and Danilo can help offensively or move the ball forward and do that. Yeah, he's gonna try to do that. If he can utilize Chiesa, Kulishevsky, these guys out on wings and whatnot that can attack Bernardeschi, yeah, he's going to do that. It's clear as day that's what he wants to do. He wants to be a foot on the throttle guy. So, yeah, be interesting to see. But, we're going to wrap up. We're going to do our player ratings for Cagliari, Juve Cagliari. And then we're going to just quickly talk about the Champions League match versus Ferencváros. I probably said that disgustingly wrong, and I don't care because the name's a nightmare. But player ratings, Buffon, 6.5. Really an easy night. Panino hanging out there, for most of it. Your rating on Buffon?
Yeah, I agree with that. He probably could have had an espresso, some panettone, a little bit of Zambuca.
Yeah. Yeah, nice day at the office. Quadrado, I gave him a 7. Where'd you end up with Quadrado?
Yeah, I'll agree with that. He wasn't out of place. He, created opportunities. Didn't give too much up.
I think he struggled at the start. Like I said, it was really bad in the first 5 minutes. He had his moments throughout the match too, where he kind of struggled. Guys were he seemed to get tossed around really easily, but for the most part, it was fine. I gave him a 7. Demiral, I had Demiral at 7.5. Solid outing for Demiral. His best this season.
Yeah, agreed. Looked like a different player.
Yeah. Ligt. I had Ligt 7.5 on the verge of an 8, but solid. Huge presence that we sorely missed.
Yeah, I agree with that one. I do feel sorry for the Cagliari player who popped that goal, but he hit that brick wall that Nelligan.
Yeah. And it's funny because we got so caught up in the pathetic clearance attempt by Ronaldo that we failed to mention Cagliari scored on that. And Buffon got fingertips to it, but it went in. But this player got absolutely blown up by De Ligt. And you didn't see it till after his walk. He was busted up. His night ended, night ruined. Don't run into a Dutch wall. Danilo, I gave him a 7. Same as Quadrado. I thought he was fine. He had his moments. He had some errors, but overall, no issues with it. I was happy. 7.
Yep.
Right on. Bernardeschi, I gave him a 7.5. Fantastic outing, and I can't remember giving Bernardeschi a rating that high maybe since Atletico. And it was probably higher than 7.5 for Atletico Madrid. But fantastic outing for him. Happy to see him start to put these together consecutively, and his best for Juve in a long time. Hope he can keep it rolling.
Yeah, Arthur. It could have easily been an 8.5 if Morata didn't do the lean offside. If Dybala or Morata finished for him, it's good positive sign.
Oh yeah, he could have been on a 9, man. If he ends up with a goal, a couple of helpers, or fantastic game. Arthur, I have Arthur 7 on the verge of 7.5. Very, very happy with that performance. All over the place, controlling the tempo, and just his best, hands down, since he joined Juve. Where'd you have Arthur?
Yeah, I gave him the 7.5. As you mentioned, it was best performance in the jersey. He came back from his first goal for Brazil. I remember when they announced the signing, they said that he's a fitness freak, and he's not a tall player. He's very short, but you can see the strength and how his hold up play. And when I'm watching, I'm actually pointing to my daughter. Watch the step overs that he does here. Watch how he's controlling the ball. Look how the ball is glued to his foot as he's doing his turns, and good to see. Big future for him. Hopefully, we get some more solid performances like this he can build off of.
Absolutely. Adrien Rabiot, have him at a 7. Another great outing for Adrien Rabiot.
Yeah, I agree with that. He's been on fire since after the COVID lock.
Yeah. Kulusevski, I have Kulusevski at a 6.5. 6.5 on the verge of 7. I don't know. Again, I think he's a funny one for me. Like, I see him do some brilliant things, and then I see him struggle in some relatively easy scenarios and cause possession to be lost. So I really have a tough time with Kulusevski, but I don't know. Some might feel that's a little harsh, but I gave him a 6.5. Yeah, I can't figure him out. I saw today that actually, who's that reporter? Is it Balzaretti there? Said that he reminds him of Kevin De Bruyne, and that it's just the incisiveness that he's missing that matches Kevin De Bruyne. I'm sorry, but I have to say pump the brakes on that one.
It's the hair.
I don't really agree with that one, and I think Kulishevsky's got quite a ways to go. I think he's a talented kid. I think he's definitely he's got some technical brilliance. I think he just needs to polish up quite a bit more. And like I said, I still see some relatively easy scenarios where his dribbling either lets him down, or it's weird. He looks a little awkward to me. He just looks a little awkward when he tries to, like, I can't figure out. Sometimes I watch and I'm like, yeah, this guy needs space. He needs to run at defenders and, with his head up. But then at times you see him do that in the game. I'm like, oh, he's a little clumsy. Maybe he does need to be closer to the goal, where he just needs to take a step or two and hit it, right? He's a weird one for me. I'm having a tough time figuring him out, but I gave him a 6.5. What did you give him, James?
Yeah, I gave him a 7. The commentators did actually note that he does have this unorthodox dribble, and it looks clumsy at times, but it is throwing defenders off, and it is giving him an extra step at certain scenarios.
Well, I think it's got it, because if you don't know where the hell it's going to go, I don't think a defender's going to know where it's going to go.
Yeah. So let's see how he plays out, and I think he's been a quiet surprise. Well, we knew he was a January transfer window signing. A lot of people were saying, wait for this kid, and he's I have no complaints about him.
Yeah.
And he's not playing his true position as well. I think he's actually a more closer to the goal type of player, like on that first game with Sampdoria, where he was playing the striker along Ronaldo, right? So he's doing a Corrado, playing anywhere the coach asks him to.
Yeah, it's a weird one, because with Parma there, he was playing out of the midfield and he was playing as a winger. So it's like, I don't know, and maybe it's because there's times where you could see him and I think, man, this guy should be an attacking midfielder, and then you watch him and you're like, oh no, he's got to be a winger. And it's like, I don't really know what to make out. We'll see what keeps going there. And it's funny, because from performance to performance, it's kind of like, man, sometimes he's had a couple where he's been not effective, and he's kind of been invisible. And then he's had some where he's been really, really good and he sticks out and you're like, wow, here we go. So it'll be interesting to follow that one. Morata, 6.5 from me. Just needed to be a bit more clinical. He's still, he was in on a lot of offensive opportunities, and, he did dish over to Ronaldo, but Ronaldo still had to beat the two guys to get the goal and whatnot. So I don't know. Not Morata's best, but that's okay. It was still a good performance. 6.5 for me.
Yeah, I agree with that. As the center forward, you have that the higher standard that you need. So yeah.
And then we get to Cristiano Ronaldo. I have him at 8.5, man of the match, bagging the brace, in on a lot of offensive opportunities. Unselfish play might have cost him a hat trick, which would have put him at a 9 or 9.5, like almost a perfect match. Man of the match, though, hands down, and I had him at 8.5.
Yeah, agree there. I was hoping he was going to pick up his second hat trick against them, but
my Fantacalcio team was hoping that too, because he's captained up on there. no such luck for me or the Fantacalcio. I'll take the brace though. McKennie and Dybala, they entered. They didn't have a whole lot of time. I gave them both 6.5s. Nobody went backwards. Everybody was moving ahead. I thought it was a solid team performance. Of course, the other guys that entered, Chiesa, Sandro, Bentos, very late. Not much to generate any kind of rating on. So, let's go with this Champions League match coming up versus those Hungarian guys, because I'm tired of saying that. Well, we get a report that Pirlo is going to go with a heavily changed squad, about 6 changes from Cagliari. And right out of the gate, for me personally, and I'm all for resting guys, changing guys, making sure you got energy out there on the pitch, but I think it's always about context. And when you look at Juve and being a work in progress, trying to build momentum, honestly, if it were me, I wouldn't change the starting 11 from what we saw against Juve Cagliari, minus, of course, maybe giving Tech the start in goal. But I'd honestly be fine even if we went with Buffon against Ferencváros. But I would leave it the same in hopes that we can build and get some momentum and get the wheels rolling before we start looking at changes and drastically changing half of the starting 11. I know that we have guys like Dybala who you want to get the minutes, you want to get him to continue to progress and whatnot. But at the same time, depending on the result with Kiev, this one would lock us in for the knockout stages, depending on that Kiev result. And that would be giving us the knockout stages with 2 games remaining in which Pirlo could then get a change, continue getting wheels rolling. Like, it's, I think the context here for me, you go out there with the same in hopes of building that momentum, kill the game early, and then make your changes. James, what do you think? Do you want to see the changes? Do you want to see Chiesa, Bentancur, Dybala in there from the start? Or are you on my wavelength there?
Yeah, I'm in the similar thought process as yourself, which is why I was surprised that the changes were so late in this game.
Yeah.
We have the 5 substitutes, and even too with the way the rule is that 5 substitutes, you're allowed to take them 3 times, but if you use one of those changes at halftime, you actually got 4 times to make the changes throughout the game. So, play your bench. I think we all know who the vice players are. So you start your Ronaldo, Morata up top, 60th minute or 45 minutes, you make your sub, you put the ball on, depending on how the game is going, get the ball at his minutes. I think Bernardeschi should start again, reward his time, comes off, and Chiesa jumps on, and that's how they should approach it with the midfield. How is Rabiot? Did he take the nod physically? Can he start? If he starts, let him start. If not, then Bentancur, you're tagged, you're in, go for it. McKennie, I wouldn't put him in from the start. I kind of like him being that energy player off the bench. And I think even too with McKennie, he's more, he actually fits better when they don't do the 4-4-2. So if he keeps with the 4-4-2, I hope it's the same lineup. I just hope he doesn't come back out there with a 3-5-2 or something crazy like that. I don't see it because Ramsey's injured, so I don't see a Tranquista. And you can't put the ball at Ronaldo and Morata all at the same time because it limits your subs going forward into the game. So that'll be interesting. It could be Piero trolling the media making all these subs. Who knows?
Yeah, it might be. It might be. But I put that message out the second I saw it that it was going to be a drastic change. And I just thought, man, for me, I'd leave it the same. I just want us to build momentum and keep the wheels rolling, especially when you come off such a strong performance when there's quite a lull before that. And you just want to get the wheels in motion. We do have, a couple opponents coming up after as well that, we could probably get away with making those changes. and getting those other guys their minutes, right? Because we're going to end up playing Benevento on the 28th. And then the match after that will be Torino. And talk about a train wreck, Torino. And that one today with Merda. But I see the changes being able to happen there. I think let's get the momentum rolling. And with the context of this one, an opportunity, obviously, depending what happens with Kiev, possibly get into the knockout stages with 2 games remaining in the Champions League. I want to go for the kill. But it'll be interesting to see what Pirlo does. James, man, we are wrapping up on that note. Everybody, of course, be back with another pod after that match against the Hungarians there. And it's going to be awesome. Hopefully we can get the job done. Hopefully we get a result in the other match in our favor that seals a knockout stage for us. And Pirlo can then have 2 very important matches at his disposal remaining. But of course, the goal is still to avenge what happened with Barca and take that top spot in the group. So, be an interesting one. We'll see what happens. James, thank you again for joining me. Always a pleasure having you on. And I'm 150% sure we're going to be doing it again, my friend. Thank you. And to everybody, we will see you after the Champions League match coming up midweek. And tune in. And don't forget to get your questions and comments in. We always try to address as many as possible. And I think there are less than a handful of games remaining for the season. If anybody's listening and they want to join the podcast and share their views and opinions, I've got my Twitter dropped down there at JuveCast. And if you guys are into some cool merchandise, obviously check out stripedheartsapparel.com. But until next time, as always, Forza Juve, fino alla fine. Ciao.